Hi, I'm Father Nathan Castle. I'm new to the world of video blogging. I'm trying to create an online web course to complement my new book, Afterlife Interrupted, Helping Stuck Souls Cross Over. What I want to do here is to imagine a conversation between us. I have a pretty good imagination. I think imagination is really important. I'm here alone, but I'm imagining you as another person who's opened themselves to me and has asked me to tell you about myself. In a good heart-to-heart, we talk about what's most important. So I'm thinking back to times in my life when someone has invited me into kind of a sacred space where you know that you're not going to be interrupted. There's time and interest and listening back and forth. A conversation. As you get to know me a little, you'll learn that I love words. I like to study how a word got its name. Where did that concept and those sounds come together? What's the history of a word and its hidden life? One of my favorite websites is Online Etymology Dictionary. I just think whoever thought that up is a genius. It's simply a place where you go and it just gives you a little search window. You type in any word you want, and in an instant, it gives you a short history of the word. You see what other concepts it's related to and other words that are derived from that same root. I looked up conversation. I knew that co and con have to do with being with. Verse is turning. It's the same root word as universe. I should have known that. Our ancestors may have gathered around a campfire and gazed up at the starry night sky. They could watch the stars turning, and they knew that they were somehow there in the midst of it. I want to talk about the universe and how I believe I live in it. What does it mean to be alive in the universe? I want to be in a conversation. I was just surprised that the two words already had the same root. So I'm going to be inviting you into a conversation. I've had really good conversations with people. Oftentimes, it's been around a fireplace. I'm not really much of a camper, but I kind of imagine late night conversations around a campfire at night. For now, this is going to have to do. Imagine maybe a candle. I use a candle to better imagine that we're together, and a candle gives a little light. Sometimes I'll stare into a candle. There's something timeless about a flame. I think it just creates a nice little mood. Maybe imagine a cup of wine. Right now I've just got a little water, but maybe a little wine. So where do we start? You've asked me what it's all about or something like that. How do I live in the world? What do I believe this all is? What's our place? You might know about me already that I'm a Catholic. I was born one. Do you know that that word gets used in two different ways in English? It can be used as a common noun or a proper noun. Do you remember that from grammar? The proper noun is the kind with a capital letter at the beginning. When you see that it's referring to the institution of the Catholic Church, usually the Roman Catholic Church, there's something like 1 billion such people on the planet. I think about 1.4 billion of us that are that kind of Catholic. The same word, when it has a lowercase c at the beginning of it, isn't referring to that subset of the whole, it's really talking about the whole, because the word Catholic means universal. So it's true that I'm a Catholic priest and have been one for almost 34 years. It's true that I'm religiously Catholic and have been since my baptism at 3 weeks old. That's 63 years ago. I'm a big C Catholic and a small c Catholic. I'd like to expand on that just a little bit. Being a universal person means that I'm a part of the one turning. A consequence of that for me is that I belong here. I believe you belong here, and so does everybody who thinks they don't. Even as I speak, there are some folks who are just so sad that they just don't feel like they belong anywhere or to anyone. At the saddest moments of my life, that's been a touchstone for me. If someone tries to make me feel as though I don't belong, all right, go ahead and try that if you want. But the truth is, I do belong here. I'm a part of the one turning. That I'm a part of the universe is important to me. I belong here, not just in Tucson where I live right now, where I have close friends and family in my Dominican community. Do you think of yourself as a universal person? What do you think about that? Do you believe that you radically belong, that this is your place? Do you believe that no place on earth is absolutely foreign to you, even if you're in a place you've never been before? I believe that. I also believe that being spiritually Catholic, I'm invited to belong to the whole. Consciousness is a way of understanding things. And I believe that consciousness can go in two very different directions. A person can have a unitive consciousness, where they see everything as belonging to the one. We do that in the United States on our civic holidays when we emphasize our unity together. By calling ourselves the United States, from the founding of the country, we said that we're trying to be one. Yes, we're doing it in a complicated context, in 50 states with regional differences and so on. But there's something about the grand project of trying to be the United States of America that I really like. I've only lived in this country and have been a citizen of it all my life. But I like that, trying to be one. It takes work. There's nothing automatic about it. The same is true to try to be united with members of your family or with coworkers. A different kind of consciousness moves into duality. Duo is from two. I try to avoid that kind of consciousness because it starts with the idea that I'm me and you're you, we're different and distinct. It's isolating. It can also make me tempted toward arrogance because if I stay in dualistic mentality, I can begin to see everything from my own point of view, which I assume is not yours. Then a gap can grow between us. I try to challenge myself to stay in unitive consciousness as much as I can, because I really believe it's truest. So, unitive consciousness is really important to me. In any kind of conversation, even though, yes, it's true that you're different than I am, I look for oneness, I look for commonality. Some annoying, idiosyncratic behavior of yours might get under my skin, or maybe we've been quarreling. Maybe I'm simmering or seething about some difference between us. I try to say to myself, hey, wait a second. Are you operating out of unitive consciousness, or have you slipped into dualistic consciousness? I hope that doesn't sound too high-blown to you, because it's really not a complex idea. It's a simple one. I believe the word Catholic in my self-identity calls me to find what's really important to me. I'm thinking about how I got here, or why I'm here at all. How did I come to be me in my experience and understanding? I think there's a question that people sometimes have about origin and pre-existence. Did we exist before we were conceived? There are some who've had experiences with past life regression. I've been around plenty of people who believe in some kind of soul cluster of which we were a part before we were incarnated into this lifetime. They believe that somehow we're on our way back to that soul cluster, bringing new experiences to enrich the whole. Just so you know, that's not my frame of reference, that's not my experience, and it's not my training. I'm willing to listen to those ideas and experiences that are not my own, because it's respectful. Respect means to look at again. Spectators are people who go to a game or a play or something in order to see it. Respecting another person is important to me because it means to look at more than once, to listen, to really apprehend truly who and what they are after you've judged the book by its cover. But if I go back and respect you, especially if you call me on it and feel like I disrespected you, I have the ability to listen to you and consider that maybe you're right. Maybe I did disrespect you. Well then, okay, help me respect you. Tell me again. Sometimes I can be a slow learner. Teach me what you most want me to know. In this little conversation, I'm sort of assuming that you've asked me to do that, and so I'm trying to speak as clearly as I can. In my own self-concept, I believe that if I existed before I was conceived, I existed potentially in the mind of God. That's what I've been taught to think as a person trained in the philosophy of St. Thomas Aquinas. He often borrows heavily on Aristotle, the idea of something moving from being potential to actual. Yesterday I cooked dinner. Before I cooked dinner, I had to create the idea of dinner in my imagination, where it existed potentially. Then I thought of the ingredients I'd need. I had to go to the grocery store to get the items I'd need to cook the actual meal. I'm just trying to be clear. Nothing really comes to be until it has first existed potentially in the mind of its creator. Did I exist before I was conceived? If so, I believe I pre-existed potentially in the mind of God. God had an idea of me. In fact, I love this story. I remember being in first grade. We were learning about the creation stories, you know, the 7 days of creation and the Adam and Eve story. I didn't know at the time that they were really two different stories. I was taught that as good as the world was before you were born, God looked at the world and wanted to make it even better. God had an idea of you and said, in my case, wouldn't it be cool if there was Nathan? And then God said, let there be Nathan. Of course, my parents' love for each other had a lot to do with moving that idea from potential to actual. But I'm 63 years old now, and I remember being taught that at age 6. I'm here on purpose because God wants me to be here and thought it would be cool. It would add goodness to the world if I were me. And that's very important to me. And I believe that about you too. I believe that you're here on purpose. You're not accidental, whatever the circumstances of your birth. I believe that you're here as part of the one design and the one beautiful plan. If that purpose hasn't unfolded clearly for you yet, well, maybe your biggest, highest purpose hasn't been achieved yet. I think I'm going to pause here because that's about enough for one little bit of conversation. I'd like to take a little break. I'll be back with you in just a little bit.